There it is.
We did it. We're back again.
Yep.
I'm going to start today.
Okay, good.
Congratulations, first of all. I'm starting with that because for anyone who doesn't know, I'm sure you know because we talk about it every time, is draft was Friday. Charlie went 31st overall to Guelph, along with 9 other guys we trained also got drafted.
Yep.
Or so.
Yep.
But yeah, that's awesome for Charlie. So congratulations to you guys. And the reason, especially congratulations, is because you guys could have been like super arrogant, talking about it, doing all the interviews that you got offered to do, really selling it and soaking up every second of like, oh, Charlie's so good. And you didn't do any of that. I know we talked about it on here a bit, but you guys were very quiet the whole time. And seeing how hard Charlie works and how you have treated him, trained him for the last few years, like that's an awesome accomplishment. And I'm happy it happened to you guys. I'm happy it happened to Charlie because he's a great kid and he earned it. So congratulations to you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll say this. I don't want to make this all about Charlie. Sometimes it comes across that we talk to him a lot. It's just about him a lot but he lives with me and he's my easiest reference point. And I think because we do things right. And I wasn't. A lot of my friends were like, you heard the phone call this morning. One of my buds that I played with in juniors called me and he called me that night and he goes, "You big dummy, why didn't you tell me Charlie was getting drafted and all that?" And I think part of this, and I want to be really productive here with this because I don't want to come across today like I told you so, but I did tell you so. But I don't mean to do that because, anyways, I told my bud, the big Greek, that the reason I didn't talk to a lot of my friends over especially last couple months, because that's the first question a lot of people ask, and I didn't want to tell them how great my son is going to do. And because it could bite you in the ass, and I knew that it could. Now everybody wants to find out and get the scoop and stuff like that, but I tried to be as quiet as I could and to keep Charlie's ego in check because it can go south real fast. And one of the things I've always said right from the beginning of the draft is that you're going to be disappointed. So, for example, you've heard a lot of the conversations with some of the GMs and stuff, and there was 3-4 teams that I don't want to say promised, but said he was going a heck of a lot earlier. And
very, very apparent, like their level of interest or it seemed like it.
Yeah, a heck of a lot earlier. Now, having said that, to give my son and all the kids kudos in this is the season was a weird season because there was limited viewings and stuff like that. So, do I believe that if there was a lot more playing out there and we were in a center where there was a little bit more action to get scouts and stuff like that, do I think that the earlier picks would have happened? I mean, I have zero doubt about that. Yep. But having said that, I probably would have said that some of the kids on Charlie's team or our local kids, or probably everywhere, there was a lot of doubt with players because they just didn't have a lot of views in this COVID year. And, I feel bad for them. I do. I do. I feel bad. And for my son, it was, he could have went like a heck of a lot earlier. Mm-hmm. But am I happy for him? And am I actually? I couldn't be happier. The city, the coach, everything about it's not that far from our house, 3 hours. I couldn't be happier, and he's going to be in the best situation. So sometimes you got to be careful what you wish for. You could go to a team that, you go, oh, okay, it's 8 hours away, and it's going to be hard to get him there, or whatever. All these different things. But having said all that, it's I feel that we did a great job preparing Charlie and our family. And I think it's something that the parents have to do, like even post-draft, and kind of look at it and say, okay, how do we fix this if it needs to be fixed or whatever? Because kids are devastated, obviously. So, yes. So anyways, we're happier than a pig in shit. And my son is just thrilled to death. And anybody that got drafted are pretty happy. Mm-hmm. But you're going to look around and say, I was better than this guy. Okay. Fair enough. But yeah. We'll get into that after. But here's the one thing I'm going to say, and I've always told my son this, and I told him this moving forward. I said, "Do you like the experience of waiting and having any doubt?" And he's like, "No." I said, "That's up to you." But when you're watching your kid or when you're playing, a player knows. Are you the best player on the ice today? Are you the best player on the ice every single time you're on the ice? Because if you're not, and I told Charlie this, if you're not the best player every time you're on the ice, If you have dreams of making hockey come true, you have an issue. Someone's better than you. And if someone's better than you, there's probably someone else better than you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that might seem like unreasonable. Well, what if I'm just not the best player at 16? Well, you have time to fix that. And if you're not the best player on the ice every single time, you have to be right there at the top, because there's some exceptional players. Or you have to be willing to be good at one or two things better than anybody else on the ice. If you're not, the bottom line is this: if you're not, why would I draft you? Just tell me why. So in my son's limited viewings, even though he had viewings, maybe his reputation preceded himself. But the bottom line was, when he was on the ice, he was what he was supposed to be. He removed, if there was any doubt, we haven't seen him enough, he removed that by his play.
Mm-hmm.
He was the best player on the ice. Now, does that sound like asshole arrogant? Well, it's not that. It is what it is. And I could say that objectively. I don't say that my opinion, because when I watch my kid play, I'm dad, and I want to see the good. I also see where he has his flaws, but I want to see the good. So this is with hockey experience.
Yeah.
So
anyways, the nice thing, this is now like an objective measure now. So now
100%.
we're not just talking like people listening be like, oh, like Andy thinks his kid's the best and all that stuff. And and you don't think your kid's the best anyways. There's a lot of kids that are better than Charlie right now.
Yeah.
But here's like the proof is in the pudding kind of thing, right? He just got a really good indicator that he's on the right track, and that he's done the right things, and he's in a good position to get some good opportunities moving forward. Now, that has nothing to do with what you or I think of Charlie as a player. That somebody else thinks that. Yeah. So it's not just fluff. It's not just blowing smoke like we always talk about. Like now he's actually accomplished something. Like he's actually hit his first kind of mark of doing something that's hard, and he has now an indicator that he's on the right track. Like I said to all the guys that got drafted. So, I mean, we're going to be a little all over the place talking today just because we're just talking about it. Yeah. But I want to kind of get your perspective. We're going to be talking a lot about your situation because you're going through it in real time right now, which is cool. But then I also want to talk about it for some of the kids that didn't get drafted, or some of the kids that got drafted late, or all that stuff. So first thing I want to say, actually a cool little fact that people might not know was, for you, I just want to throw this in there because I think it's cool. Okay. So you got drafted 1985. Yeah. 32nd overall pick. Yeah. And to Sudbury, and then Charlie went 31st. So beat you by one pick in the draft, which is cool. So that's a cool thing. But
in a normal year, I think he would beat me by a lot more.
Yeah, I think if he would have played,
and that's a role of a parent. Is you always want your children to do better than you did. Yeah, I hope.
Yeah, and I mean on Friday when it was the draft, I was hanging out with you guys, and man, like what a beautiful moment, man. It was awesome. Like you guys, so happy. Charlie's so happy. He's crying, tears of joy for you too, and Christine. Is just awesome time. So
actually, okay, so Charlie had bets, and my wife had bets because I'm actually an emotional guy.
You are.
I'm actually an emotional person. When I speak from my heart, I actually feel things, right? So they said, you're going to cry when I get drafted. I said, I don't think so. I really don't think so. And I was fine. I was just happy for him. Yeah. Like the emotion of it was great because we had some family over outside on a big projector screen, which I was regretting when we did it.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
How come?
Yeah.
Because not trying to
I told you that you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah, yeah.
And people don't understand that when the first team that was going to take him first round.
Yeah, passed. Yeah.
Yeah, and we had that feeling. We talked to the agent in the morning. I said, I think they're still going to take you. I think, but I said, this is how you're going to get through this. The worst you're going to do, because we were very, very certain that the worst he was going to do is where he got drafted. Yeah. That was the worst. I said,
which is interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I said, the worst that you're going to do today is you're going to wait till pick 31. And I would have put all my money on it, because George really liked Charlie, a lot. I said, so if that's the worst, we're going to have a fantastic day. So, but when the first team there was like 3-4 teams that were like bang, 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 that said they were, very interested in taking him. And then when that went through, he looked at me and I said, don't worry, man, 31 is where you're going to go. He goes, I don't think so, Dad. Because that's the emotion that actually happens. Doubt creeps in, and you think that you're lousy, like terrible, I didn't do enough, this is bullshit. Mm-hmm. And then those teams again had two of those teams had another pick, and they didn't take him because they just went in a whole different direction. So you take this guy and it goes all over the map. It changes.
Mm-hmm.
So he was looking at me, and when Guelph was picking, they were taking their time. But I think, and then I saw my phone ring, but I had it on silent, and I don't know if we were getting a call for a couple minutes or not, but I saw it. I gave it to Charlie, and he got the call. But the reason I said that I regret it is because there's so much stress because he put his life into this, and now if it doesn't go where it's supposed to go, then and I knew better, but it worked exactly the way it was supposed to work out, like it was perfect, and then it was like the best day of his life. But up until that point, he was like, I don't know if I want this. But fortunately, we didn't have a party. We had
it's just my brother family.
My brother came down with his family. Obviously, because you were there. You were there, who is one of his biggest supporters in the whole world. That you're part of his life, and then his couple cousins, Grammy and stuff.
Yeah.
So it was like a safe place to be. Everybody was there to love him no matter what. But I would never encourage anyone to do that. Good thing I was certain.
well, and this is the thing too. Is like I said it again, man.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, the part that was interesting is that where he was kind of projected to go, where you had that range of picks where it seemed like he's going to go somewhere in here, right? Between here and here.
Yeah.
And he went the last possible point of that.
Yeah.
So like you said a few episodes ago when we were talking about the draft coming up and stuff, everyone is disappointed except the first overall pick.
That's right.
Every single kid gets some level of disappointment. Yeah. And although Charlie was super happy and whatever,
honestly couldn't
be happier for sure. But he could have went higher, and now in the back of his head still is going to be like, man, I like just missed the first round.
Yeah. Well, now you got the attitude is okay. I'm going to show those guys when we play them.
Right.
Right up the coach's ass now.
Well, which is great.
Which is great. But it's like,
but it's still like, well, like I should have went first round. Like I can't believe they picked that guy. Like that guy wasn't. And we had some of that. That when we were talking, watching the draft. Yeah. I was like, well, this kid, and we were just kind of like saying to Charlie and some of the family that were watching. We were kind of goofing around, making jokes about it and stuff. But for the most part, it's just like you don't know why they're picking. And something I said to you yesterday, or even today, like it wasn't the like Charlie Paquette draft. Like that's not what it's about. It's not about Charlie. Like nobody cares about Charlie.
No, it's not your draft.
Yeah, it's not your draft. It's they're picking kids that they need for their team, and you may or may not be one of them. It's not about you, even though from the family perspective, that's what it feels like. You're the centerpiece, whether not just for any kid that got drafted.
Every
it's like
kid.
You just think it's about you, and you're worried about you, or when they said they were going to take you, they didn't take you. And like, well, why didn't they take me? Well, they might not even be thinking about you. Yeah. Like you think they are, but they might not be. Yeah. You know?
There's a bit of a debate through our household and through, people that have kids that play hockey. And the debate is like, for example, our local team didn't draft anybody from a very good crop of kids, local kids. And the question is, and this will probably piss some people off, but it's just the reality. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm not, because other teams tend to pick local kids when as the later rounds go, and that could be a marketing thing, or it might not be. It might think it might be the best player available. But it was like, well, why them and why not our local kid? Like why? Like we have one of the best teams, and like why wouldn't they just take local kids? And I understand that, I do. Because I think it would be good for local, but I think that you really do have to put the perspective on, like, because because I own a business. So when you're owning a business, and that's what the OHL is and the NHL is, it's entertainment stuff, but at the end of the day, it's a business. And in a business, you're trying to put, like, do I hire someone for PowerTech just because I know them or I'm familiar with them? Or do I hire the who I feel the best person for the job should be? And if I'm trying to run my business right and have the best results, I want to take the best people that I can have to work in my business. And that could offend people. And that's what I feel that part of the draft is when people kind of just would like, well, why not me? Well, again, it goes back to my point is if you're not the best player on the ice day after day after day, then that's the issue. And I'm not being negative, because I also see the other side is, you have local kids, why not just take them? Well, but then you're like, and you're minimizing. You can minimize the pick now. If you say, well, we'll just take local kids now. I'm not saying that they wouldn't be the best picks. I mean, there's some kids on our team that I really felt I was hoping that they would get drafted. I think that they are good enough to get drafted somewhere, and they didn't. It sucks. It just sucks. But this is a shit sandwich, and I'm not minimizing that. By the way,
No, I know you're not. But
I don't ever want to come across like, hey, too bad you didn't get drafted. You weren't good. That's not what I mean.
Well, the point is like you don't know why they're making the decisions they're making. Like you have no idea what their plan was. You have no idea what their. It's easy from the outside to think that.
Because I could say like, okay, so just to be asshole here, so our local the Windsor Spitfires had the 20th pick. So if obviously that would have been a really good pick to take my kid.
Mm-hmm.
Really, honestly, right?
Yeah, for sure.
They didn't. So we could go down that road too and say, well, they could have just taken a really good local kid that's marketable, that's really nice, knows the family, knows the owners, all this kind of stuff. We could have went that way, and we could be disappointed. Yep. But they didn't. Yeah. It's all good.
Well, and that's the point. You don't know what their decision making was. You don't know what they were looking for. You don't know any of that. And that's a good way that you just put it. Talking about it was that people don't really think about, especially because we always talk the kids are so young, is they are hiring your kid. Yep. Like that is what they're trying to do.
Your kid.
Your kid is getting a job. Like that is the way to think about it. It's not your kid is getting rewarded for playing well. It's I'm hiring your kid to do a good job.
Or potential hire.
Yeah, potential hire. And I wanted to get into this. Well, I'll ask you about that a bit later.
Yeah.
But
you lead this thing.
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to
feel like
a
jerk today.
Well, I know because
it's touchy. It's touchy.
Yeah, I know. It's because we're just talking about your kid and your situation all the time. But it's important. It's an important perspective because a lot of people listen from all over Ontario that maybe their kid is in this position or will be in a year or a couple years, or they just are out of it or in the middle of it right now. So it's important to hear somebody who has the experience you have being in the industry, like how you're handling this, because you have a good perspective. And when I congratulated you at the start, like you were able, even like in our private conversations, you're excited and all that kind of stuff, but you're able to keep like some perspective on what the reality is. You're not just dad mode because you know what the reality of the situation is going to be once it actually happens. So it's important that people hear that. But speaking of that, I wanted to get kind of your perspective as a dad now, not as hockey coach Andy, moving forward over the next few months, maybe leading up to when Charlie moves or whatever, what your thought process is, how you're thinking about handling the next few months, kind of preparing him. I don't put you on the spot.
Just the next few months?
Yeah, next few months or however you want to take it. But just what are you thinking now for the next little while, like about the situation in general, like for your kid?
Okay, so I'm happy.
Yeah,
I'm happy. I'm thrilled to death the situation that he's in. They love him. And he's in the best spot, so I feel good about that. The next few months is about keeping his head in check, not hanging his laurels on getting drafted, because we knew that was going to happen, and we knew it would be in a good situation. But it's about getting him, like you're just asking for as a dad,
not hockey.
Yeah, it's I'm letting him enjoy the moment and all that kind of stuff. But literally just enforcing to continue to do the same things he's always done, to treat people right, to work his butt off, and to just aim for the next goal, because it's over now, man. It's over. It's done. And I mean, we're going to be proud of it. But I've been teaching him a lot of lessons through this. So this might be something that blends into the question. I said, did you see how, what did you learn out of this, Charlie? I said, do you notice that this business is not friendly? It's not a friendly place. Like people told you one thing and they do another thing. People have promised you and they said, like, basically they said one thing and they do another, and that's going to happen the rest of your life in this game. Actually, in life. So that was one thing. The other thing was, as soon as you have a little bit of success, like there was an article on him before the draft, and people are nice and they send out, oh, congratulations, and we were getting emails and texts and Facebooks and all this kind of stuff about how great he was. And I said, you haven't done anything yet. You see how people will latch on to any type of success? Mm-hmm. But I said, you haven't had any yet. It's just an article. So that was another thing. So then when he did get drafted, I said, you see that feeling of that uncertainty? I said, you don't ever want to do that. So you better make sure that you find your weaknesses and you go nuts and work on it. It's full of disappointments, like we always say. It's one disappointment after another. The next part was when he got drafted, everybody's your friend. Everybody loves you. The media, the press, everybody's your friend that day, and everybody wants to know you, and everybody wants to get in on it and stuff like that. But I said, watch. You haven't talked to most of these people in a long time, and you're never going to talk to them again. So, like, there's a ton of lessons in this thing, and I just, and then the next thing is that I know your coach loves you right now. I know he does. But as one of my statements will be later, he's going to forget about what round you were drafted real fast. Because if you go on the ice and you're not ready, everything changes. He's going to look down the bench, and he's not going to say, okay, it's a 3-2 game. I need my second rounder on there. That's not how it works. I need a 16-year-old second rounder. I need a 18-year-old veteran third round. No, that's not how it works. I need who's going day after day after day after day. So so moving forward, the lesson is enjoy it, but let's put the work boots back on, which he has, and make sure that you go there and you don't disappoint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. And
is that
yeah, 100%,
where you were going?
Yeah, 100%. Because what's easy to do is start to buy your own press now, right? And that's kind of the danger that I'm pointing out to all the parents.
Yeah,
like for everyone who's gotten drafted,
mm-hmm.
and like we'll get to kids that don't get drafted later, but for the kids that get drafted, like I'm not saying don't enjoy the next week or don't enjoy the attention or don't enjoy that, because especially for a kid like Charlie, I'm really happy that it happened to him because he's a great kid and he has some humility. He's not an arrogant dick. So I'm happy a kid like that is going to get the attention he's going to get. So I'm not saying don't enjoy that or whatever, but it's important to keep that dose of perspective because like you said, things can change like on a dime. Like, and the best example I can think of with that is with the actual team personnel. They're all hot and heavy about Charlie right now, and their other early picks.
Oh yeah,
like I'm sure every team always is. Your first, second rounder, those are your golden boys once you first get drafted. But if for the first month they go out and they're stinkers, they don't care about you anymore.
Yeah, and we've discussed this with Charlie a lot. Like going into the league. A lot of the teams have asked him, like, what are your expectations coming to the league? So he has some goals, but I said, you can't say I want to get 20 goals. Mm-hmm. You can't say it because like you can want to, but it's unrealistic because you don't know how good the league is. So what we've taught him to do is to learn. Like I said, you go in there and you learn as much as you can, and then earn every little bit that you can, and get the trust from your coaches. I said, because you're not going to get a lot of goals. You get 3 shifts a game, right? Yep. You're not going to get you're not going to get penalty kill, power play, and all that stuff if you're not dialed in. So the bottom line is now this is a huge jump. It's like the equivalent of taking a peewee hockey player and put him in minor midget. It's a huge jump.
Oh yeah,
he's going to be playing against 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
So you go in there and you work, and you learn, and then you earn. Mm-hmm. And every bit of ice time you are going to get rewarded for. You're going to get every bit of ice time you get is a reward for your effort and your attention to detail and wanting to learn. Mm-hmm. If you go in there any other way with high expectations or that you know it all or that you're going to be real good, it's going to be like the draft. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a huge disappointment. Yeah. Huge, because the league is good.
Well, and for most kids that get drafted or kids that, not even most kids that get drafted, kids that actually end up making their OHL team.
Who was that?
I don't
know.
Oh. Most kids that end up making the OHL team, that team is in no rush to prioritize you in the game.
Yeah.
So if you end up hopping in and you start performing right off the hop, then you might get those opportunities quick because they're like, this kid's on tonight. Yeah. Like, let's get this guy going. Mm-hmm. Great. But if you're not, they have no problem letting you marinate on the bench for the whole game because it's not your time yet. So if you go in there and surprise them, they'll be happy to give you all the opportunity because they go, like you said, they need who's performing right now in this moment.
Yeah.
Like who's going to get me the next goal, who's going to get us the next big play or whatever it is.
Get the puck out of our end.
Yeah, like whatever that is, that's who they need. So if you can jump in and do that, that's fine. But if you don't do that, they're not in a hurry to prioritize you. They're going to go with their guys that they already have.
Yeah. Well, I told them that. I said, you're going to go. You might be having some good games, and then you're going to look, and the power play comes on, and you're having a great game, and you think you should get rewarded, and you're going to look at the coach and go like, what about me? Mm-hmm. Like I can do what they're doing. They've been on the power play 5 times and they haven't scored. They've been chasing the puck around. I can do it, but it's not the way it goes. The coach goes with who he knows, who he trusts, and maybe he's got a reason. Like, no, these guys are going to muck it out until they get it. There's reasons, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, the expectations Is your expectation for yourself should be going to work as hard as I can. I'm going to learn as much as I can, ask questions, stay after practice, do all the little things, and earn every little bit.
Yeah.
If you do that, you're in a good place.
Yeah, 100%. So I wanted to get one more question, unless you had something else you wanted to go to.
No, I want you to lead this today.
Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to touch on is, so for all the kids that got drafted, 0 to 15 or 1 to 15 rounds, like all those kids, like what is the likelihood now that, or let's do it this way. What do you think about where these kids are going to end up playing for like next year? So if you got drafted 6th round, 5th round, or 4th round, whatever, 10th round, last pick, whatever it is, where are you going to play next year? And what are your thoughts about that situation, or how you should go into thinking about that if you're in that position, from dad perspective, from player perspective, all that?
Okay, so the biggest thing is ego kicks in. Okay, so you would assume that you play at the highest level is the best place to play. And for your ego, it is the best place to play. But if you go to play junior B or tier 2 junior, and you're playing with 18, 19-year-old kids on a good team or not a good team, and the coach is all about winning, which typically they are, your ice time is probably going to be not as good as it would be as if you played major midget. I'm not saying you play major midget, and I'm not saying don't play junior B or tier 2, but you have to evaluate and say, where am I going to develop? Because you don't get better at hockey by not playing hockey. And I think you talked about this at one point. You're going to get better at playing hockey and making sure your confidence is at a high level. So typically when you play another year of midget, and this is for the kids that didn't get drafted too, is it's going to be highly scouted next year. I've been told that several times because a lot of guys have been missed. So you want to go out there with a good attitude, by the way. And I had this talk with Charlie right before the draft, because he could have got drafted to a team in the first, second round. They said, well, you're not ready yet. I had the conversation. So if major midget or junior B, whatever it is the place that you're going to go, are you going to go there with poopy pants? Or are you going to go there and say, okay, I need to obviously get better, and I'm going to own the puck. I'm going to be so good at this level, and I'm going to have a good attitude doing it, because you're playing. That's the bottom line. So my short answer to that now would be, you go and evaluate and you play at the best, at the place that gives you the best chance for the most ice. Period. Yeah. Don't worry about your ego. Yeah. And I worry a little bit. I feel like he's in a good spot this year, but I do worry that, not worry, but if he's not getting like a fair amount of ice time, does he get better or worse? I know there's a lot of ways to combat that, but it's a confidence thing, right? So when I played my first year of junior, I was ready. Like I thought I was, and I was playing very well, but the coach didn't feel like, we had a really good team, older team, so he didn't feel like I should get as much ice, even though I was doing things right. Yep. So what does that do for your confidence? I'm just saying it as a 16-year-old kid, because, well, I guess the way I would say this is that the way I was brought up was probably a lot like a lot of the parents with kids that, like, without hockey experience. So my parents thought I'd step in and be a superstar like I was before. Well, when I was sitting on the bench and looking for my turn, like, I want my turn, there wasn't the advice that I'm giving or give my son. It was my dad, who went out for ice cream and never came back, but he was around a couple times. he would be just jealous. That guy isn't as good as you. That guy's not as good. He didn't give me any concrete information. My mom didn't know the difference. Like, she didn't know what to say except for work hard. But I would have loved this information, like, because looking back, I actually did really well. But I thought I was shit because I used to score a ton of goals and hit, and I wasn't getting the opportunities. So, but the thing is that you start doubting yourself. Do I even belong here? And then the word quit comes into your vocabulary. It does, and it will with my son at some point. As much as he loves his coach right now, he's going to hate him. Guaranteed. But the quit will come into your vocabulary, because I'm not, and you're so young. It's coming. Like I said, the shit sandwich is coming. A lot of dark days are coming. So you have to go in there with the attitude that you're just going to get the job done. And maybe I'm stepping ahead of the game here, but this is what I told Charlie, like, about the draft, about everything really, is reverse engineer what you want to do. So I said, where do you want to be? And I would say this, I'm going to keep this general. Where do you want to be in hockey? So if your answer is the National Hockey at 23, if your answer is the National Hockey League or scratching and clawing your way into the National Hockey League at 23, okay, cool. If it's to get a college scholarship at 18, 19, or 20, okay, cool. You still got 4 or 5 years, 3-4 years. So reverse engineer that. Does 23-year-old NHL hockey player, does it matter where you are actually right now? Because if you know that's your end result and you're going to do whatever it takes to get there, 15, 16, 17, 18 years old doesn't really matter. You still have the work to get there to be the best guy on the ice at what you do. So now it makes it tolerable. It's not maybe the easiest way, and that was another lesson I wanted to say about when those first couple teams were taking them, or said they were taking them early. The one you asked me the question the other night, and you said, "How do you feel about it?" And I said, "I feel great," because it was actually going to be too easy for him. Remember I said that?
Yep.
I said I'm so sincere. If you would have got drafted to where they said that one team said they were going to take him, or the two teams, if you would have got that, it would have been just I just play hockey and everything works out for me. But now he realizes that I have to work.
Yeah. There's a kid ahead of me.
There's other people.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not just saying it to say it. I mean it.
Yeah.
So, anyways, reverse engineer it. Look where you want to be and do the work. Being 16, it makes no difference.
Yeah.
I mean that because there's a lot of kids on Charlie's team that are watching. They're upset, sad, whatever. But honestly, guys, there's so much time.
Yeah.
So if you go to your midget team and your junior B or whatever it is you're playing, play with a good attitude and do what you do well and listen to your coach and just work and hone your craft until you're the best at it.
Yep. I got two. Sorry.
Shoot. Yeah. Go.
I got two things on that because that was awesome. So, we're talking about having a good attitude earlier.
Yes.
And I told the story a couple episodes ago. I'm gonna tell it again. So, what happened with me? Didn't get drafted. Went and played, and I was a pretty good player. Didn't get drafted.
Yeah, sure.
But we talked about it before. Like vanilla. What's the difference between me and the next kid that's like me? Nothing. We're the same. So they just didn't pick me.
Yeah.
So what I didn't have a lot of confidence, didn't have a lot of opportunity in my draft year. There were guys that everyone thought they were like better than me and whatever, and they performed like their objective statistics were better than mine.
Mm-hmm.
So they got more opportunities, and I didn't feel good about how I played in draft year. And then I went to those junior B camps, got cut from all of them. Didn't want to play junior C. So you want to talk about disappointment?
Yeah.
I got about 4 months straight of disappointment.
Yeah.
Ended up playing midget major because I didn't want to go play on a junior C team.
Yeah.
And I was our best player. Yeah. And I was one of the best players in the league. And
makes you feel good.
And I was one of the league leaders in scoring. And it didn't matter that it wasn't the OHL. It didn't matter that it wasn't a junior league, because I was one of the best players. And I felt awesome about that. And then next thing you know, I'm getting a call 2 months into my midget major season to sign in junior B.
Yeah.
And I did.
Because you went in with the right attitude.
Because I went in with the right attitude. I went in and I'm like, I'm just going to play because I love playing hockey. I just love playing hockey, and so I'm just going to keep doing that. Then I get signed 2 months into my midget major season. So I said this before. 2 months before, I'm crying because I got cut from every team. Nobody thinks I'm good, and didn't get drafted. I got zero attention. Nobody gave a shit. Nobody even knew I played hockey. I was irrelevant. Now I get signed to a B team. Now I'm playing in junior B against all those guys that got drafted. The 3rd rounders, the 5th rounders, the 7th rounders.
Yes.
And now I'm in the same game as them.
You're the same guy.
I'm on the same playing field as them, and they got a shit attitude. Mm-hmm. So I did better than them.
They don't belong there.
I remember my first game I got called up to play B. We were playing a team that had 4 or 5 draft picks that I played against the year before. And I remember I went in and I was like on fire because of all the confidence I had from playing midget major. Yeah. Scored, I had 2 points my first game and 2 penalties that I got called up. Scored, assist, 2 penalties. I think that's what I had.
Right.
So I was in the game and I was playing. Like the coach kept playing me, which I couldn't believe.
Right.
And I was like,
because he forgot who got drafted. Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter now.
It doesn't matter
now. And I remember like I'm watching all these guys on the other team and on my team for that matter, that got drafted. And I'm looking at these guys and I'm like, I can play here.
Yeah. And then, so fast forwarding your career. So I remember when you were going over the schools that we're talking, the U.S. colleges, like the Colgates and the Harvards and the Western Michigans and all that kind of stuff. And it was like, that's cool.
Yeah.
It works. Because you had the right attitude. And what I would say to the parents, like, And this is where I feel like a jerk talking about this today because I'm not in that situation, but this is what I would do. I've had to manage disappointment before with my son. Is it the right thing to do or if you got drafted later than you're supposed to, is it the right thing to do to blow it up and complain? Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Is it like it just, again, I don't want to sound like a jerk, but do you think it's better to say, well, they should have picked local guys? This is bullshit. It's all, and you're telling yourself this is a bunch of bullshit, and you keep pouring gas on that fire. And I know that it's almost like impossible, right? Mm-hmm. To change that around, but it will. But you have both ways. You're happy when you get drafted, you're disappointed when you don't, but you don't pour the gas on the happiness because it doesn't matter anymore. Mm-hmm. And then you don't pour the gas on the bullshit and how there's politics and all this kind of stuff because there's something you could do about it, and that's through your first thing that attitude is everything.
Yeah.
And yes, you got to wipe the dust off and look in the mirror and say, okay, do you want to do this? Because this is just the one. Well, there's going to be tons. It's going to be a daily dose of shit coming your way. Mm-hmm. And you got to face that every day. And it's your attitude. Do I want to continue to do this and fight for what I want and what I love? Or do I just want it to be easy? Because if you want it to be easy, it'll never work out for you. Mm. So anyways, go ahead.
I was going to say, leading into that, we're talking about having a good attitude, and if you end up playing at a lower level or whatever, that's fine, but you don't want to put too much gas on the happiness or on the negative part of whatever you think should have happened, because it actually doesn't matter that much.
Right.
And it was like I said in that I made a post like just congratulating some of the guys that got drafted that we train, because and what I said, and I was very intentional with the words that I picked when I was congratulating them, because like you still haven't done anything yet. Like,
that's right.
This is an accomplishment. Enjoy it. Like, good for you. All this is an indicator that you're on the right. You're doing something right. Like someone noticed that you're doing something right, mm-hmm. and you're on the right track with what you're doing. That's all that means at best. That's what that means. So even for someone who went super high like Charlie, that's what that means right now. You're on the right track. Someone noticed that you're doing the right things. Mm-hmm. Keep doing what you're doing. Mm-hmm. That's all it means. Yep. So like strip away that like you think your kid's this good or that good or my kid versus this kid or any of that. All it means if you got drafted in any round is it's just an indicator that you're on the right track, doing something right. Someone noticed that you're doing something right. So take it as that. Don't take it as anything other than that, positive or negative. Like that's right. Is what the message is from that. And then the other part of it that I wanted to touch on is as a player, I remember going through those years like when the draft was happening, and the thing that is important to ask yourself as the kid is you were saying before, like, what reverse engineering, what's your long-term plan? Where do you want to be when you're 23? Do you want to be a player? Is that what you want to be? And it's important to ask yourself that question. Do you actually want to be a player, or do you just want the attention of being a player?
Yeah.
Because that's very different. So if you just want to have the attention of being able to say, I got drafted, I play in the OHL, I'm a superstar and all of that, like, that's obviously not the right intention to what you're doing.
That's right.
And if your goal is to be a player, then whether you got drafted or not, it doesn't matter. That's because you're just going to keep playing, because your goal is, I want to be an actual hockey player when I'm this age or whatever.
That's right.
I want to play pro. I want to get the most I can get out of the game or whatever your goal is. So, and I'm not saying your ego's gonna not be hurt or you're not gonna get disappointed or any of that, or you're not allowed to feel any of those things. You are, but do you want the attention or do you want the result? Like, that is what the question actually is. Yeah. So because you don't get the attention right now, maybe if you didn't get drafted or you got drafted super late or whatever it is, or you think you should have went higher, like, all that stuff doesn't matter. Yeah. All that stuff doesn't matter. So that was the other thing I want to point out, just that attention piece. Like, is that what you're looking for, or are you looking to be a player? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's cool. And the thing is that there's a million people, like, not a million. There's never a million hockey players in the NHL. Yeah. But there's players that you can go and just search the NHL, search the OHL, the players that were never drafted or drafted really, really late that make it. And one of the examples I had was one of the partners or owners of Charlie's new team is Scott Walker. And Scott Walker was I loved watching him play. When he played, he was tough, and he had the hands, and he was good. So he played in Vancouver, played in Nashville, and I think a couple other places. But he didn't get drafted, and he just played his game because he obviously loved hockey. And then he, 18 years old, played for Owen Sound. Played 2 years in the Owen Sound, and then he played 800 games in the National Hockey League. And now he made a ton of money, part owner of the golf team, and he's a player development. I don't know if it's in Vancouver or Arizona, but he's a player development coach now. And there's stories and stories and stories like that of people that, they just love hockey. And that's the point of that, is that and I always say this, you play hockey because you love hockey. If you love hockey, good things could happen to you. But if you don't love it, then soon as something negative happens, you quit's my first word. Yeah. I don't need this shit. Mm-hmm. But if you love hockey, that's what it takes. You have to have a deep desire, passion to play this game, to get through the tough times, because we always talk about this. Everything's great when it's good.
Mm-hmm.
There's no challenge, right? When your coach loves you and you're getting the ice and you feel good and you're not injured and all the things and you're beating up on other teams, yeah, it feels great. But when it's the opposite, that's the true test.
Yeah. So circling back a little bit, we didn't really specifically answer the question that I asked first. When you get, that was all good, but still, I want to nail this down because I know what I think. So I want you to actually put like an actual specific answer on. So if you did get drafted, and you're somewhere between, you're outside the first couple rounds where you're probably playing, and you're probably going to sign in the next 2 weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
If you're the rest of those picks, like what should the expectation be of where you're going to end up playing? So whether that's, I'm going to play on a junior A team, I'm going to play on a junior B team, I'm going to play junior C, I'm going to play midget major. For example, just to give you more context, if you're a 6th round pick, is it fair? Should you be assuming, or is it fair to assume that you're going to end up on a junior B team somewhere? Or should you be prepared to maybe play midget major even if you were a 6-7 round pick?
I'd be prepared to play there.
So this is what I want to get at, and then I also want to get your thoughts on, and if you don't want to answer because it's putting you on the spot, you don't have to. But where does like a junior C thing play into the mix on that?
No, I can answer that.
Yeah. So just go into all that.
So I'll answer that one first. Yes. Junior C, I would say no. It's not a development league. What'll happen is you walk into that room and you're going to have kids that are 18, 19, 20 with that have it, whatever it is, what it is. The skill level is never good.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not a good skill level at all. So you're not going to be playing a good pace game, even though they're older. And then you're going to have kids with a give a shit meter that's really low. So you don't want to be around people because you are who you hang out with, period.
And that's right. Just so to clear the air on that, that's exactly why I didn't play junior C. I went to one camp, played one at like scrimmage game at one of the camps, walked out, and my dad was like, "Do you want to play here?" I said, "No."
No, and because you're going to be walking in the rink with, you have aspirations and you want to play. No, if that's all the place you can play. But do your thing, and now you're going to have to be really mentally tough.
Yeah.
But, your environment, it's not like, I was just reading this the other day. It was really good. It was really good. Your what do you call it? Not discipline, your willpower. You don't have willpower. So what I mean by that is that if you hang out with a bunch of idiots, or you hang out with, a bunch of idiots, or you hang out with people that are not motivated, hanging around with them, you will become unmotivated. Mm-hmm. If you change your environment, so it's willpower or environment. If you change your environment and you hang out with people like that are moving and talking about,
and you have better willpower.
Now now you have willpower.
Yeah.
So if you go to a team, so this is part of the answer to the first one too. So in a junior C setting, it's for people like, you might be walking in a room where a guy just comes up from working at the gas station with his bag, and he might have smoked some weed, come into the rink, probably half the team. Maybe half drunk, who knows?
That is the reality too.
I know.
Like it is. We're not just no fluff. Like that is a lot of times what it is.
Yeah. So is that where you think you're going to develop best? I don't think so. So now you're...
Sorry, wait, before you move on from that too, and that's not to say like some kids, like I've played with some kids that played junior C in their 16-year-old year and did great, moved up, had a good career. One of the guys that worked with us did that. Siegs, he played junior C and was awesome, and then moved up and played B and had a great junior B career, whatever. A couple other guys I know did that. So it's not like it's impossible if you decide to go play junior C, but in terms of, like you said, the environment of you having a goal to be a player, you're not going to be around a lot of guys most of the time that have those same aspirations. So
That's
just
right.
to make sure it's clear. Go ahead.
So the answer to that question, the first one is, should you be willing to play major midget? Yeah. So I would look at it this way. Number one, there's only 2 spots in Ontario for 16-year-olds, right? For junior B, tier 2 per team.
And the OHL too, right? They could take 2?
No, I think they could take more.
They
Maybe
can take
not.
more?
I don't know. I actually
Okay.
don't know.
Okay.
Maybe it's only 2. I
But
don't
junior
know.
B, it's 2.
Junior B, it's 2.
Mm-hmm.
So there's only 2 spots. So when you look at, if you kind of get a gauge on that, like go try out and stuff. That's for sure. See how you fit in there, and maybe it works for you really well. But you have to be able to say to yourself, okay, I'm good enough, and I will play. I know for a fact I play. Like I can play. But the next thing you want to ask yourself is your environment. So are they a good bunch of guys? Are they willing to work hard? If I look, is there 8 guys on this team that want to get scholarships or that have been drafted? Because if you do, then they have something that they're shooting for. Or they're really serious about winning championships, right? It's a good organization that way, that they're producing players, they're developing players,
Mm-hmm.
right? And am I going to play?
Yep.
If you don't have that, and you have the major midget team that has kids that still want to get drafted in their 18 year or get invited somewhere because they know they got more in the tank, they're still serious about hockey, they maybe want to get college, whatever it is, then that might be the better place too.
Yep.
So it's kind of like, make sure you're getting on the ice, and then make sure your environment's good.
Yeah.
And you can control that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, so I want to give like a specific example for our area because
Yeah.
I think it'll illustrate
Sure.
the picture. So around in like Windsor, Essex County, we have 3 junior B teams.
Yes.
So we got LaSalle, Leamington, and Chatham a
Yeah.
little bit further, but whatever.
Yeah.
So that means there's 6 16-year-old spots
Yes.
in junior B.
Yeah.
Okay. The Spitfires usually send a couple to LaSalle.
Yeah.
So there's 2 gone.
Yeah.
So if you didn't get drafted to Windsor and you're not one of their higher picks, you're probably not playing
That's
on
right.
LaSalle as a 16-year-old.
That's right.
So now we got 4.
Yes.
So just from the Windsor Sun County teams, actually not even, like just from PowerTech, we had the guys that trained with us, 8 or 9 that got, whatever it was, 8 or 9 that got drafted.
Mm-hmm.
So those 8 or 9, so maybe let's say minus Charlie who might play, or that kid that got drafted, what's his name, a couple after Charlie. Declan. He'll play, let's say, so let's go -2.
Yeah.
Now there's 6-7 guys, but there's only 4 spots.
That's right.
So of those 6-7 guys, just from our area that got drafted, they're competing for 2 spots
That's right.
on the 2 junior B teams that are around here.
That's right.
And that's only that's only guys from around here.
That's right.
What about all the kids that are going to walk on? What about all the kids that are from Toronto or whatever that are trying to make their team down here or whatever, right?
Yeah.
What about the kids that got drafted to London? Where are they going to play? What about the kids that got drafted to Sarnia? Where are they going to play?
That's right.
Like, these are all things that you have to consider, right? So
Yeah.
for 4 spots, so even if you got drafted, it's not like a for sure thing you're going to make a junior B team.
That's right.
So you need to be prepared, like, to not make it.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're going to go and you want to try to make a team because I'm sure all those guys are going to go to camp. That's what most of the guys do, or whatever camp they're going to go to. But if you don't, that's okay. Like, you're allowed to be a draft pick that plays midget major next year. Like, it's okay. You might
Totally fine.
you might be a little ego hurt. That's fine. But the other thing that I wanted to point out, especially with Charlie's Windsor team, because they were awesome.
Yeah.
Like, they were unreal.
Great team. Great hockey players.
So let's say from their team they had 4 guys that got drafted, I think.
1, 2, 4.
Something like 4. So, okay, so let's say for sure 1 is not going to be back, maybe 2, and the rest of those guys, like, where they need to find a place to play. So let's say those guys go back to their AAA team. Then, like we said earlier, there's another few guys that could have easily got drafted.
Yeah.
That maybe got overlooked had they played. They got whatever it is.
Yeah, definitely.
So if those guys all ended up playing midget major again together on a team, that's an awesome team still. That's an awesome team still. You guys are going to be good. You're going to be playing with guys that care. All you guys are still going to be hungry to be hockey players. What if you have an unreal season? You go to TELUS Cup. Now you have your U18 draft next year.
That's right.
And there's another opportunity to maybe go to an OHL team, or now you're going to get signed to a junior B team out of that, or whatever it is.
That's right.
You know, so like these are things you have to think about. Like, take some perspective and don't be so quick to try to play at the highest level possible necessarily, because it isn't always the best thing, like we're kind of spelling out, right? So these are the things to think about. So that's a real concrete example of just in our area what the dynamic is going to be for next year. Like that is what's going to happen. So if those kids decide, okay, instead of going and playing for a crummy junior C team just to say I played junior, maybe I'll go back and play midget major with my buddies that still care about hockey. I know they're all good players. We have some chemistry. We're a good team. We can keep that up, you know?
Yeah.
So that's another thing. And that might be a little ideal because I'm sure some kids might stop playing or move on to something else or stop caring
It's
or
a mixed
whatever.
age, so it'll be a good team.
But it's a mixed
kids
age.
that care and love hockey.
Exactly. So there's potential there too, which is important. So
100%.
Yeah.
Well, just a side note is like, okay, let's just say my kid got sent. It doesn't. They say, you know what? We want you to go back home. Well, he's not committed to a team yet, like a junior B team.
Yeah.
So if I'm a junior B coach or a GM, and I want to have a team that lasts for 3-4 years, do I take my son? So the quick answer would be, well, yeah, obviously the best guy around. Okay, for 1 year, would you want to take him?
You're gonna
or
lose
do you
him.
want to take, like, I'm not going to say his name, but one of the kids on Charlie's team that's really good, and he's committed. You're going to cut him, that he's probably going to be there for, like, and he's probably going to go to college anyways. Do you want to cut him to have Charlie go, and then for 1 year and hurt his feelings?
Yeah.
Where you could have him for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So
yeah,
there's a lot of games. There's a lot of, not games, but there's a lot of things in play.
Yeah. So that's all I'm pointing out. So if you're a dad or if you're a player listening to this, if you didn't get drafted or you did get drafted, but it's not really clear where you're going to play next year, like those are all the things that you need, like start to think about those things. And it's okay, like whichever avenue you end up taking. If you end up making a junior B team, great, but also maybe not great because maybe you don't play. Because it's you might think because I got drafted I'm gonna hop on this team and get all the minutes and stuff, but that never happens, man. Like that is so rare.
It's rare
for you to hop even on a B, even a B team, or if you're up in Toronto, you go down to play on a junior A team. Like that, it's so rare that you're gonna just hop on at 16 and be a guy that plays big minutes. Like you think, oh, I got drafted. It's like there's so many players. There's kids that got drafted last year.
The coach on that team didn't draft you. He doesn't care about you.
For sure. But and even if he did, they probably have 3 other kids that got drafted last year that didn't play a game yet. And those kids are all going to be there. You know, that's another perspective on it too, right? So these are all just the things that you can think about. There's so many things that are going to develop in the next year. So just don't, like, again, you just figure out like what's best for you, where you're going to play, where you're going to develop, and that's how you should make your decision, not based on where you think you should be because you did or didn't get drafted, or you think you're better than this guy, or you want to try to play junior just to say you play junior, or whatever your motivation is.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep.
I'm going to let you go still.
Well, so I was going to get into...
I know.
I was going to get into the kind of leading up to the draft, what people have been doing or what people might think they needed to be doing, and kind of go over that now that we have a result. So I don't know if you want to get into that yet, or you want to touch on something else.
Yeah, no, we're going to get into that. This is something that I've been waiting years.
And and you actually have been waiting years on that.
Years. So ever since I started this business, I just didn't understand people. This is what I see. So I'm going to just say what I see. Ever since I started doing this, training players, I found it like there was a huge, look, these are actually the words people have said to me. They put time into, well, this is what I see first. I see people running around with their kids at a young age, treating their kids like there's actually a prospect here. And that the most important thing is that they get them on the ice and train with somebody. And they run around training with this guy and that guy and this guy and that guy. And the kids are on the ice more on the ice as little kids than I was ever on the ice, like by far. So my question is, number one for the kids is like, does a kid want to do that? Number one, just train all the time. I could tell you right now, they don't want to be training all the time. I could tell you that right now. They want to be on the ice and all that stuff. But see, there's the quote. I don't know if I've ever used this quote before. And I guess this is the way to sum it up. There's motivated parents and there's motivated players. And very rarely do they live in the same house.
Yeah, you've said that before. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But what I find is they're very, very motivated parents. And they run them around and they worry about training. Like, right? You see it.
Yeah, training.
Yeah. We need to get them in the gym. What exercises do we need to do? When you're 8, 9, 10, 11, none.
Yeah, I got a good story about that, but after you're done, when you're done your thought.
Spring hockey. making the best teams, traveling all over the place, spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, never taking a break. And his parents just never staying home, just running your kids all over the place. And I don't have a problem with it, but I know what the intention is. And then, like, when you're taking your kid to Italy, Spain, all over the world for a spring tournament, I don't know.
Well, why are you doing it?
That's my point. Now, I do believe, but this is where if a listener is being honest with themselves, they have to be honest with themselves. I'm just going for a vacation. That's what a lot of them say. Well, it's a good way to have a vacation, but no, it's not actually, because you're at the rink the whole time. That's not a vacation. It's the same thing you're doing here. But so my point of this is that I've just watched insanity take over, and parents, like, you can see it in their eyes. Like I mean, you see it. They're wound up, and they're trying to make friends with people that are going to help them. They think that they can put something together to get their kid to a higher level at 8, 9, 10. You don't even know what you have.
Mm-hmm.
You have Charlie was not the best player on his team when he was young. When he was really young, yes. But actually, yes and no. There was a couple kids that were.
I remember.
There was a couple in there.
Yeah.
It wasn't until minor Bantam that he made this leap, and then he never looked back. But I didn't do anything. Like, okay, so someone could say, well, yeah, but he skated with you all the time. Yeah. But that was my investment. You can say it was free. No, it wasn't free.
Okay, wait, hang on. I'm stopping here. Because let me do this. So I'm going to tell two quick stories, and then I'm going to go back to exactly what we were just talking about, so you don't have to talk about it. Okay. So first, you're talking about kids training like crazy in the insanity. So I got a message the other day, maybe a couple weeks ago now, a TikTok message from a guy. It's a random dad from wherever. And he was asking me what kind of training he should do for his son. And so I said to him, like, no details. So I didn't know how to answer. So then I said, well, like, it depends how old he is, like, where he's playing, what his goals are, like, all those kind of things. So if you want to give me some details, I'll be happy to answer whatever, but I can't recommend something without knowing the situation. So he sends me some video of his kid. The kid's 8 years old. Yeah. And it's him. The video is him, like, drilling his kid, like, practicing. There was off ice, stick handling, pylons, whatever. Yeah. And you could hear the dad rah in the background. And that's what his question was. What kind of off ice training should I do with my kid? And I'm thinking, the fact that you're asking me this question when your kid is 8 years old, it makes me think that you're a crazy person. Yeah. So what my advice was, because I want to, like, try to give the guy a clue, is like, the first thing that you should do is make sure your kid's having fun, because he's 8. Yeah. Because if you make it not fun, where, like you're saying, you're training all the time and not just playing, then he's going to hate you, and he's going to hate hockey very soon. Yeah. So that's number one, is to make sure your kid have fun. But this is what parents think, and this is kind of pointing to what you're talking about. People have that kind of mentality from the time they're 7 until their draft year or whatever. And it's absolutely crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So I'll go into Charlie's thing now, but I was gonna say too, we were talking about this yesterday. I remember being at the rink, like, seeing some of the dads with their little huddles. Yep. They're always doing these little huddles. Little secrets. Yeah, like they have some big secret of something to do with hockey, and it ramps up as you get closer to the draft. So we're gonna hang out in this corner and talk, or I'm gonna meet up with this guy from this team and talk and see, like, what the buzz is. Well, they know everybody that's going on in all of Ontario or wherever. They know how. Yeah. So now I'm gonna get back to that in a second, but now going to Charlie's story, because I was here the whole time the kid was growing up. So he played AA for a shitty team until he was 12. And we had to. And he was a defenseman. Which there's a thing that parents, like, they think it's everyone needs to be a centerman. Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, you got to be centerman, captain. Yeah, he was a defenseman. Yeah, so he was defenseman on a AA team that sucked
Yeah.
until he was 12.
Yeah.
Now you guys won that championship that won his
Yes.
last year because you were coaching and you did a great job like making the kids play as a team. We've talked about that before. But they weren't a good team.
No.
From a skill perspective. And it was AA and Charlie was a defenseman.
Yes.
So then he jumps up to AAA when he's 13. So from like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, he could have been playing AAA the whole time or not, but he could have been in theory, and he didn't.
Right.
Because it didn't matter.
Didn't matter.
Then he's 13, starts playing AAA. He wasn't the best
Might have
player.
been 12. Whatever. 12, 13.
He played Pee Wee Major was when he jumped.
Yeah.
So Pee Wee Major, then Bantam Minor, Bantam Major, and then this would have been his midget minor.
Yeah.
So he played 3. This would have been his 4th year of AAA.
Oh.
He didn't play AAA the whole time.
No.
He never did one spring tournament that I know of.
No, never.
Never won.
No.
Never won. You were never involved in any of these parent huddles about what the buzz is about that I know of.
Never.
Never talking about who's
Or if I
scouting
was,
what.
I was just like,
Yeah, listening, whatever. But you just want to watch your kid play. You say to me all the time, I've been there watching you watch games. You're not crazy dad in the stands. You're not trying to talk to every parent that's out there.
Not worried about ice.
Not worried about ice. Not going to spring tournaments. So now if you're a dad, now that the draft has happened and everything you think you were working towards has now come out in the wash, how much did all that shit matter now? Like, just ask yourself the question. As dad, as mom, as player, like, how important was it that you played in that spring tournament that one time? How much difference did it make to whatever happened to you, whether you got drafted or didn't, because you did those things? You made those decisions. You spent that extra money. It made no difference. And the thing that's crazy, then you contrast that with the kid that got picked highest in this whole area, and he did none of that.
Like
Zero.
most of the kids that got picked highest too over the years.
Zero.
Zach
Did none of it.
Zach Cassian, how many spring tournaments did you do? Zero. Matt Pumple, how many spring tournaments did you do? Couple.
Yeah.
Dalton Proud, how many spring tournaments did you do? Zero.
Yeah.
Ryan Wilson, how many spring tournaments did you do? Zero.
Yeah.
Aaron Ekblad, how many? He did 1 or 2 when he was whatever, because he got to play hockey. There's a guy that just loved to play hockey. Give me the ice.
Yeah. And so the point that I'm making, like, when you guys are going through this, and for people that their kids are going to be coming up in the draft the next few years, or now having this knowledge moving forward now that the draft is over, like, if you didn't have that perspective before and understanding what matters and what doesn't, like, use it as a learning experience, because you talk about it all the time. We see it all the time with parents. Like, they think they have to be doing every little thing to get every little opportunity, and it just doesn't matter. If your kid's good, he's gonna go. Like,
I'll give you Charlie. His biggest success, obviously, is he's had a lot of ice with me skating. And now listen, when he was young, I didn't teach him one thing.
Okay, wait. Sorry, I'm gonna interrupt you again,
Okay.
because even that, it wasn't like, "Hey, Charlie,
No.
come to the ice and skate."
No.
It was Charlie saying, "Hey, Dad, can I come skate?"
Yes.
And sure, do you want do whatever you want? Like, we're not training. Like, you want to come put your skates on? Yeah, you want to come put your skates on and float around with the big boys on the ice? Sure, go for it.
Yeah.
It wasn't, you need to practice your pylons for 5 hours today. Like,
No.
Never. Sorry to cut you off.
No, that's okay. But I didn't teach him one thing.
Mm-hmm.
He came on the ice. What was my thought?
You were saying Charlie's biggest success was he got to skate with you.
Yeah, his biggest success for hockey, are you ready? Is lacrosse.
Yeah.
And so everyone say, okay, what level of lacrosse did he play? Don't worry about it. His biggest success for hockey, the biggest skill that he learned for hockey, outside of, like the attitude and just being on the ice with all the touches and getting, anybody can do that, was lacrosse. The reason it was lacrosse is because we didn't put him in lacrosse to transfer to be a good hockey player.
Yeah.
Put him in lacrosse because it was a great sport. And he played that for 3-4 years. Now, did he play travel? Yes. We went all over the place with that, which is the reason we pulled him out, because I wanted to be in my backyard once in a while instead of in Sarnia or in the freaking Six Nations.
Walpole Island.
Come on. We just
weekend.
wanted to save some money and say, like, you're going to go into boxing or jiu-jitsu or something like that. So that's why we did it. But it was the best thing, because he was getting the shit kicked out of him every game. You're getting whacked. It's a tough sport. It resembles hockey, but that's not why we put him in it. And he loved it. So that was the biggest transfer. He couldn't, like, and this is the important part, when hockey was done, and I hope from this podcast that the lacrosse numbers go up dramatically, which they won't, but I wish this lesson would get there. because it's a phenomenal sport, and he's going to get roughed up and he's going to learn how to play. But the most important thing is he loved lacrosse.
Mm-hmm.
So when hockey was over, as disappointed as the season would be, like he would be at the end of the season, he'd go, oh, I get lacrosse, because it would intertwine. He loved it. And that was the biggest, I think it's probably the best thing that we've ever done with it without knowing we did it. But going back to that is, we've never done one spring tournament with Charlie, because I looked at spring like, okay, it doesn't make sense. But the attitude behind the spring tournament was, the spring tournaments was like, let's get the best team. Let's go out there and compete. And the words are, spring's the real hockey. The season's not. It's just your local guys. No, that's not true. It's not true. You don't have a real coach. You don't have real structure and all that kind of stuff. I looked at it and go, no, it's just where people make money. That's all. And that's fine. If you go into the intention, I just like hockey, I just want to play hockey as much as I can. If that is actually the kids' intention, then fine. I'm 100% on board.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's mom and dad doing it and making those decisions, like, no, we got to get them playing spring. I like watching hockey. I want to be around my buddies. And you get sucked into the vortex of the freaking cesspool of AAA hockey attitudes. When you're doing it for that reason, brutal. And when you start taking your spring tournaments, like, and I wouldn't even mind if I had to do a spring tournament here locally. But if you're taking me to Toronto every weekend, or Ottawa, Italy, Sweden, Moscow, to play for what?
On your own dime.
I don't care if you're going for the vacation and you did it once. You said, well, it's a hockey vacation. It's not really, whatever. It's fine. You do whatever you want to do, but it's not going to help your hockey. Is my point.
It's the intention. That's what the point is.
Yeah. And then the people, the attitude, because I see it in the rink all the time. It's like the people are looking for the secret. They'll ask me something. Then he's not telling me everything. I'm telling you everything.
Yeah, that's the funniest thing, man. It's
because
so funny to watch
right?
that. Oh yeah, dude. Like, they think you're like holding something back, or you're not telling them everything you know, or people calling you just to hear what you know, like just inquiring about what you've heard and whatever. And the spring hockey thing's funny, because I remember I think I did it for one summer, maybe 2 summers, when I was like 13 and 14, I think.
Yeah. And
I remember leading up, it had already been going on for 5 years already, or that time. I feel like I did it for 1 year. Anyways, I remember my dad was like, we're not doing that. We're not doing spring hockey. Like, that's not what we're doing in the summertime. Like, you play baseball, you're going to focus on that and whatever. And I remember, because my dad wasn't a hockey person. Like, he didn't know the ins and outs of all this stuff. And then it was one of those things where it was like, well, everyone like seems like they were playing spring hockey. So, and from my perspective, I was like, this is sweet. We get to go on tournaments and play games, and that's awesome. Of course. But my dad never once expressed any kind of thought that, well, you need to do this because this is going to help you get noticed, or whatever. It's like,
but it's like, it's the intention.
That's what it's all about.
Like, I've seen so many people over the years, at not just my son's age group, like before and the ones coming after, they think, okay, I got to know this guy because he's connected. And I see it. I've seen it. And they try to know everybody, and they think, there's people that knew more about the draft than thought they do. Talking to the guys in Toronto and these areas, and everybody's throwing in their 2 cents of bullshit.
Yeah.
Total bullshit. Mm-hmm. And thinking, okay, this is what's happening, and is not what's happening. No one's connected. Yeah. You might think you're connected. You're not. I'm connected.
Yeah.
And
you're not.
And I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah.
But I'm connected, but I'm not.
You didn't know what was going on in the draft.
No idea.
We were sitting there, you were guessing just as much as everybody else. You're like, I don't know. 100%. I think you'll go here, but I don't know.
Yeah. So all the effort and time and the anxiety, that's what it is with the parents, anxiety.
Yeah.
I got a funny story for you.
Yeah.
So Andre, Seabass's dad, we're sitting at a game one day, and I had the funniest story ever to tell that was happening. Okay. So a couple dads came around, and another dad that I wanted to tell the story to, and Andre was there. Maybe Andre wasn't. Anyways. So I said, funniest story ever. But they were all talking about the league, the games, the scores, who's doing what and stuff. And I try to get away from that as much as I can. So anyways, we're sitting there. I go, funniest story ever, guys. So I start telling the story, and I go to the punchline, and I couldn't get there except for the one guy was listening. So I told the punchline. He is dying. Like, he's bent over, laughing so hard, crying. And these other 4 guys missed it because they started talking about the league thing again. Yeah. And so the guy that was laughing, He goes like this. He's looking around.
Yeah,
he
to
goes,
share the moment. Yeah.
and I go, oh yeah. They didn't hear one word because they were so worried about the 4-2 game last night or whatever it was. I said, unbelievable.
Yeah.
They're
It's
so
crazy,
consumed. So my point is that, like, I could go on a real tangent here, and I don't know if I'm going to do that. But the thing is yes, here's my thing. Success leaves clues. Success leaves clues. There's a million guys out there with a whistle and a pair of skates and a bag of pucks that are going to tell you all the things that you're going to do, and they make it sound good. And I'm going to do this for you, and I'm going to do this for you, and we're going to have the greatest spring this, and we're going to have this program that's going to come out, and it's freaking garbage.
Mm-hmm.
It's the YouTube this, and go to YouTube. You can do the same things because that's where they get their drills from half the time. Success leaves clues. So if you want your son to be the best that you can, go to someone. Okay, so I'll just use me. Success leaves clue around here. So we'll just say this would be the pinnacle of
PowerTech
of training, PowerTech. Because I'll say to people, I'm not for you. I'll say it.
Yeah.
No problem. Or I'm not for you yet. But go find, and I'll give you a suggestion on what you can do. But go to someone and get the right advice. And realize that if you come and talk to me, it's not about me just taking your money. What program do you have? Oh, we got this for you, and you come here 10 times. No. I'm going to tell you the truth. I've had so many kids that the dads where I said, okay, right now you need to take a month off. And they go, what do you mean? A month off? Do you think they take the month off? Not a chance.
Mm-hmm.
They go somewhere else. I'm like, well, you don't listen.
Yeah.
That's number one is you don't listen.
Yeah.
You come for advice. You don't listen. So I can't actually help you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got to fix the shit that you went and did somewhere else. You know what I mean?
Oh, man.
So all this stuff, if I'm having a kid, so I know there's some people that have reached out and they say, oh, we'll just do whatever Charlie did. I said, good, because now you're going to have a life. You're actually going to have a life now.
Mm-hmm.
He had passion. He skated with me and trained whenever training was appropriate. And we left it at that because I know that I knew all along and that it's going to be really hard to be a hockey player no matter what you do. If you don't have the passion, if you don't have this and get to a certain skill level, it's not going to happen anyways.
Yeah.
And you just see deflated parents at the end of the day. Their whole life, and this is the thing, their whole life, moms and dads' whole life, every conversation they're having is about the hockey.
Yeah. Coming to this moment.
I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah.
I'm not exaggerating. You're only friends with the guy that'll talk the same shit as you, and it's exhausting. And it's for what? What did you do?
Mm.
You've taken 8 years of your life or 6 years of your life, and you put it all in hockey. Now what?
Yeah.
Now what are you gonna do what are you gonna do as a couple now? You haven't had a conversation. I'm not even joking. I've seen it. My wife and I go sometimes. We go. That person there is talking like it's the most important thing of their life, and I guarantee you, there's more important things.
Yeah.
They're not talking about anything else. You can't have a conversation because they're so wound up in it. For zero reason. If he's going to be, if your kid's going to get drafted, he'll get drafted.
Well, so I'm going to spell out for everyone. So
I'm not making friends here.
Well, whatever, man. This is the truth. It is the actual truth. You can't control what the outcome is going to be. So from my perspective, I'm going to, because Charlie was the highest pick in our area. So I'm going to give, this is from my perspective, the recipe to make someone successful in this area. When I'm looking at Charlie, the recipe for Charlie was he had passion for the game since you never once had to ask him to shoot a puck. He did it on his own always. That was one. Then number two was you made sure the kid wasn't an idiot.
Yeah.
That was the second thing.
Yeah.
Make sure the kid has half a brain. He can have conversations with adults. He's mature. He's resilient. He can bounce back from setbacks. He can do all of those things. That was number two. And outside of that, it's going to just be whatever happens. It doesn't matter how many tournaments you go to. It doesn't matter who you talk to. It doesn't matter who you know. Because like we say all the time, at the end of the day, it's in the glass. What happens in the glass? How does he play? What does he do?
100%.
There's nothing else outside of that.
Yeah.
That is what the recipe was.
I would like to, maybe some of my friends, actually some of them turned around the last couple of years and said, yeah, you were right. Or they said, yeah, we're just going to do this. But even that, I would like to sit down with some of them and say, and look them in the eye and say, okay, so now let's be honest. Let's just be honest. Was it worth it for you? Maybe it was, and I totally got this too. Some of them, maybe they have busy lives, and their escape as parents was spending time with their kids at a hockey tournament or going to the Italy or the Moscow tournament or whatever, wherever they. Spain. It's good hockey in Spain, eh?
Yeah.
I'm like, you're going to Spain for a hockey tournament? Yeah. That doesn't make sense. Yeah. If you told me you were going to Boston or Buffalo, I'd say might be good hockey. But if you say you're going to Spain,
yeah,
I don't think that it's going to be the best tournament. I just don't.
How many Spaniards you know that are in the NHL?
Oh, excuse me. But I would like to sit down and just say, okay, like, be honest with me. Was it worth that part?
Yeah.
Like the intention and all that stuff. And if they're honest, they're going to say I was nuts.
Well, and cutting in, because from my perspective too, because I just remember my parents. Like, my parents had zero experience in sports from like a competitive perspective. Like, I was the first kid and the only kid in my family, extended family, aunts, uncles, anyone that played any kind of competitive sport. So for some parents, they just don't know, and maybe getting away from more like the crazies that are just all consumed. It's easy for some of the parents that they just don't know to get sucked into that, because like other parents are making it seem like it's so important, you know? So if there's something I can give to those parents who don't know, it's just like, if something seems off or something seems like it's a little much or whatever, you're probably right. Like, your instincts are probably right about that. You don't have to go crazy and buy 1,000%. Into all this crap, because for somebody like that was probably the only reason I ended up doing spring hockey the one summer, was just because my dad was just like, well, everyone's doing spring hockey. Yeah. Maybe he needs to be doing spring hockey. Like, What does he know? He didn't know. He didn't play hockey. He didn't know what was important. There was no outside influence. There was no voice of reason like you. Like, I came and trained with you, but I didn't have like a personal relationship, and you didn't with my dad either, the way like you do with some clients that you have. But if it seems off or it seems like it's too much, like, you're probably right.
You're probably right, but then my answer to that is, if you don't know, again, we'll go back to success leaves clues. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean my success. It means, who do I know that had their kid in AAA hockey? Nobody? Okay.
Just ask the logical question.
Who's there an NHL player here? Is there there's some hockey schools. I'm going to ask a couple of them about what they think and find out, you train a lot of players. Okay, so what do you think? And, maybe if someone came to me and said, yeah, go to every spring tournament, maybe it's good for them. Yeah. But anyways, success leaves clues. You can find the answer.
Yeah. Yeah. We've talked about that a lot before, like trying to find good resources and all that stuff. So yeah, that's the end of the stuff that I wanted to touch on. So I don't know if you have anything else you want to touch on quick before we wrap up.
I can go on. I can go on that tangent forever, but it sounds really negative. But it was a burr up my ass for a long time, because you don't even have to go to PowerTech. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the other thing, is like, some people would just sign up to every single camp, and I get sometimes why, because it's so, like, it's very intense. You learn, the kids love it, and they're getting stuff out of it. They're getting the side benefit of having someone speak to them, like, about real life. Like, we have a ability to be mentally stimulating and bringing out the best of people. So that's a side benefit of that. Mm-hmm. We have the gym, all those different things, but you don't have to train. You don't have to train. Like I've said this a million times. Go play a competitive. If you want extra ice, go play games with kids. You don't have to be the best, the worst, whatever. Just go out there and play battle drills and 3-on-3s and all these things. You'll get better that way. Yeah. So you don't have to be training all the time. There's a time where it becomes important. And again, you want to get skill buckets done. You want to get skating so that you're comfortable on the ice, and maybe work some skating, stick handling, shooting drills. That can get those skill buckets done. And then after that, it's the kid. It's not mom and dad. It's not anything doing crazy and whatever. But listen, the draft is the draft. I want to make it really clear that, okay, so if you get drafted in the first 2 rounds, maybe even 3, do you have a better chance? Like, does it seem like you have a better chance? Yeah, I'd be lying to you if you
better chance of what, though?
Possibly have an opportunity. Like, if you're drafted at 16 in the first 3 rounds, let's say, you've been recognized and probably correctly for that age group, that identified as a pretty good player for that age group. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean
at that time.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's the work has to come in. The listening, because there's a lot of first, second, third rounders that never pan out, right?
Most, actually.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're right. Right. But and do you have a better, like, for the first year, do you have an opportunity to make like a really good look to make that OHL team? Yes. But then the next year and the year after, there's spots, man. There's spots. Yeah. And if you're undeniable, then you're undeniable. You will have a chance.
Mm-hmm.
And I just can't say it enough. Reverse engineer hockey. The draft is a draft. It's one day. And I said that to Charlie. I said, now you've been through this. The next one, who cares? I'm talking the NHL draft.
Yep.
Now, he's 3 years because he's a late birthday. So in 3 years, you're working towards that. But now you've been kind of through a draft. And it's like, whatever. Honestly, whatever. Like, it feels great if you get drafted and all that stuff. But the work actually starts. I know that's almost cliche, but it actually does.
Mm-hmm.
The hockey isn't like, I was saying this to Charlie so many times, hockey's going to be unrecognizable now. What you knew up until this point is not what hockey is. Now, it's all business, and it's based on performance. Performance in the gym. If you don't go to school, you're gonna suffer the consequences of that. If you don't work out, you're a little bit out of shape. If you have a bad shift, if you're late for 2 seconds, if you piss off a coach, your coach might get fired. Actually, will get fired. Charlie loves this. Like, really likes the situation he's going into, but the percentages that he keeps the same coach for the next 4 years is probably very small. Coaches get fired. You're gonna have to deal with that. Probably deal with that or trade it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So hockey is now a business. And it's all about performance based. It's actually not fun for a lot of people. It's not fun.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a different world.
Yeah,
it's all work now.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, I think the leave off that I have for the kids that you got drafted, you didn't get drafted, whatever it is, just really evaluate for next year what your circumstances are, what they could be, and what is actually the best situation for you to continue to develop. Yeah. Because that question that I asked earlier, are you doing it for attention or are you doing it to be a player? And that is the most important thing to ask yourself if you are the player and then if you are the parent. Because if your kid can make a junior B team or a junior A team or an OHL team, but that isn't actually what's going to help them the most, then you got to ask what your intention is again. What are we trying to do? And then for all the parents that, coming up to this point, like that have thought you have to do all this, you have to do every little thing, every little camp, every little skill thing, because it's so funny because in the next year, what's going to happen is all those kids that were doing every camp, all those kids that were doing every workout with every skate, everything, they're now going to stop doing that. Yeah. Because now the draft is over. Yep. And this is the whole point.
Or their buddies aren't all doing it together because things have changed.
Now things are different.
Now it's on you.
Yeah. Yeah. You've been building up to this moment that now it either maybe somewhat panned out or it didn't, or to some degree you were disappointed because for sure you were, because everyone was disappointed.
The other reality of this, and I told this to Charlie a while back, I said, well, once the season was over or we realized the season was over, I said, so son, not that I didn't do this. How I said it was, I've done everything I could to help you to this point. And I don't mean like I've just been a supportive dad and I could have influence on him a little bit to steer him. Said, my job is done. Not being a dad, but my job is done. I have zero influence in your life as far as a hockey player goes, except for the fact that when you call me and you're ready to stick a pen in your eye and burn your equipment, I could remind you what your dream is, and then remember and teach you that it's a shit sandwich that you have to deal with, and the lessons that you learn through life, and to just kind of steer you back. That's all I'm good for now. Anything that I like, no matter how much I know, who I'm connected to, has zero bearing on this. George in Guelph does not care. He respects, I know that, he respects where Charlie's come from, like the organization, like PowerTech. He respects it. But if I think that he gives two shits what I think about my son, there's zero. Yeah. George is going to play him or he's not. Charlie's going to earn it or he's not. There's nothing I can do. There's not even a car ride home. Yep. So now it's you, baby boy. Yep. And it is what it is. So all the shit leading up to this is out of my control now. Yeah. And it was never in my control. It was in his. But now it's he's deciding whether he wants to do this for the rest of his life or not. And I asked him, because we were doing, like, with the training that you're doing with him is extremely hard. And I asked him the other day, I ask him all the time, I said, can you do what you're doing right now every day for the next 20 years? And he goes, this is my job? Yeah. I said, okay. That's what it's going to be every single day.
Yep. Yeah, that's great, man. That's awesome. So I think that's
So guys, don't, like the last thing, don't
Yeah.
don't stop playing, and don't be butthurt because of this. And I understand the pain of not being recognized right now, but listen, like you said, go in the mirror, find out what it is that you needed to be better at. Ask me, like all for my customers, ask me, and I'll be, I've tried with a lot of parents that, but they never ask what does he need to get better at? Do you freaking regret it now? Because I guarantee if you would have listened, if you would have asked the question, what do with your son, come in here and say, what do I need to get better at? And actually did it, things would be a little different.
Yeah.
But when you're telling me how great it is and what's happening, it's like I sit there and I go, wow.
Yeah.
It's like you have to prepare. So this for the future generation of kids coming up next year's draft, year after. Listen to those words. Prepare your kid the right way. Don't think that you know what the hell you're doing, because you don't. If you're hearing this guy is the best guy here, they don't know. Work, find your deficiency, and come and seek help and find out what you need to get work at. And if you do that, now you give yourself a fighting chance. That's it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. For sure. I'm gonna leave it on that.
Okay.
If people have any follow-up, feel free.